The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually quiet. Tom Miller sat at his desk, sipping his third cup of coffee while watching the usual stream of data flow across his screens. The small facility in Antarctica was one of humanity's main ears to the cosmos, listening for any signs of life among the stars. At exactly 3:27 a.m. Earth Standard Time, every alarm in the facility began to sound at once. What in the world? Tom nearly spilled his coffee as he jumped to check the readings. The numbers couldn't be right. He blinked hard, rubbed his eyes, and looked again. The signals were coming from just beyond Pluto's orbit. Not just one signal, but hundreds of them. His hands shook as he reached for the emergency phone line to the International Space Command. Within an hour, the ISC's main control room was packed with Earth's top scientists and military leaders. Captain Robert James, a tall man with gray hair and steady hands, stood at the center of the chaos, studying the massive wall of screens before him. "Show me the images again," he ordered, his voice calm despite the situation. The main screen lit up with telescope footage from their outer solar system arrays. There, clear as day, floated hundreds of massive ships. They were unlike anything humans had ever built, sleek, almost organic in design, with surfaces that seemed to shimmer like oil on water. "Sir," a young technician called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's in English." The room fell silent as Captain James nodded. "Play it." A voice filled the room, clearly artificial but carrying a note of desperation that sounded all too human. "To the inhabitants of the third planet, we request immediate assistance. Our fleet is stranded. We have no power. We are caught in a gravitational trap of our own making. 2 million souls await your response." The message repeated 3 times before falling silent. Dr. Laura White, the head of Genolinguistics, stepped forward. "They must have been studying us for some time to know English. This isn't first contact. They've been watching." Captain James nodded slowly. "The question is, why reveal themselves now? And why ask us for help? Their technology is clearly far beyond ours." The next transmission answered his question. Detailed technical data began flowing into their systems, showing the aliens' predicament. Their fleet had been attempting to use an artificial gravity well to boost their speed, but something had gone wrong. Now they were trapped in their own gravitational field, unable to power their engines enough to break free. "Look at these power readings," one of the engineers said in awe. "Their ships run on quantum displacement drives, but they're completely drained. They don't have enough energy to even maintain life support for more than a few months." Captain James studied the data carefully. Despite their advanced technology, these aliens were in real trouble. Their ships were essentially dead in space, caught in a trap of their own making. "Send a response," he ordered. "Tell them we received their message and are analyzing their situation." As the message was sent, he turned to address the room. "I want every engineer, every physicist, and every problem solver we have working on this. These aliens chose to ask Earth for help. Let's show them they made the right choice." The next few hours were a blur of activity. More data poured in from the alien fleet, revealing the full scope of their predicament. They were refugees, fleeing from a disaster in their home system. Their last-ditch attempt to gain speed had backfired, leaving them stranded at the edge of our solar system. As the sun rose over Antarctica, Tom Miller finally took a moment to step outside the facility. He looked up at the still dark sky, knowing that somewhere up there, 2 million alien lives were hanging in the balance, waiting for humanity to solve a problem their advanced civilization couldn't. "Well," he muttered to himself, "I guess this is why we humans never throw away our outdated technology. Sometimes the old ways work when the new ones fail." Little did he know, this was just the beginning of humanity's greatest challenge, and potentially its finest hour. 3 days after the aliens' distress call, Earth launched its response team. The ship Problem Solver carried Earth's best engineers, led by Dr. Jack Smith. He was known for fixing impossible problems with simple solutions, earning him the nickname the Mechanic among his peers. The journey to the edge of the solar system took 2 weeks, even with their fastest ships. As they approached the alien fleet, everyone on board fell silent. The alien ships were enormous, each one bigger than Earth's largest cities. "Would you look at that?" whispered Dr. Smith, pressing his hand against the viewing window. The alien vessels looked like giant silver whales swimming in space, but their usual bright glow, visible in the photos they'd received, was now dim. These ships were running on emergency power only. The problem solver docked with the alien flagship using a specially designed connection tube. Dr. Smith led his team of 20 engineers through the airlock. They wore simple spacesuits, carrying basic tools and measuring devices. The alien commander met them in the docking bay. It was tall and thin, with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer. "Welcome, Earth engineers," it said through a translation device. "We are the Starborn. We thank you for coming." Dr. Smith nodded respectfully. "We're here to help. Show us what we're dealing with." The aliens led them through massive corridors filled with worried faces. 2 million refugees were packed into these ships, families who had fled their dying star system. Children of various alien species watched the human engineers pass by, their eyes full of hope. In the engine room, Dr. Smith's team got their first look at the quantum drive technology. It was beautiful and complex, but completely dead. The main engineer pulled out a simple voltage meter and began taking readings. "Interesting," he muttered. "Their technology is advanced, but it follows the same basic principles as ours. Energy in, energy out. They've just found a more efficient way to do it." The alien chief engineer, who introduced itself as first engineer, explained their situation. "Our quantum drives require massive amounts of energy to start. Once running, they are very efficient, but now we are trapped. We cannot generate enough power to break free from the gravitational field we created." Dr. Smith walked around the massive engine room, tapping on pipes and looking at connections. His team spread out, taking measurements and making notes. After 6 hours of inspection, they gathered to share their findings. "The good news," Dr. Smith announced to both human and alien engineers, "is that we can help you. The bad news is that you won't like how we do it." He pulled out an old-fashioned paper notebook, something that made the aliens stare in surprise, and began to sketch. "Your quantum drives are amazing, but they're too complex for our current technology to power up directly. However, we noticed something interesting. Your power distribution system is similar to ours, just more advanced." The alien engineers watched as he drew a simple diagram. "We propose using our nuclear fusion reactors as a basic power source. They're not as efficient as your quantum technology, but they're simple and reliable. We can modify them to work with your systems." First engineer studied the drawing. "But your fusion technology is primitive compared to ours." Dr. Smith smiled. "Sometimes primitive is exactly what you need. Your ships are like high-performance sports cars with dead batteries. We're offering you a reliable old truck battery. It's not fancy, but it'll get you started." The aliens discussed among themselves in their musical language. Finally, first engineer turned back to Dr. Smith. "We have studied your history. Your species has a remarkable ability to solve problems with limited resources. We will trust your judgment." Dr. Smith nodded and turned to his team. "All right, people. We need to design a way to connect our fusion reactors to their power grid, and we need to do it before their life support systems fail." As the human engineers began their work, more alien children gathered at the engine room's viewing windows, watching with curiosity. One of the engineers waved at them, and after a moment's hesitation, they waved back. "You know what's funny?" Dr. Smith said to first engineer. "A week ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Now we're trying to jumpstart an alien fleet with technology they probably haven't used in centuries." First engineer made a sound that might have been a laugh. Perhaps this is why the universe brought us to your solar system. You humans never forget the basics. Over the next 5 days, Earth's engineering team worked nonstop. The Problem Solvers cargo bay became a makeshift workshop where human and alien engineers worked side by side. Dr. Smith's simple solution was starting to take shape, but it wasn't going smoothly. The power output is still too low, Bill, one of the human engineers, said as he looked at the test readings. He wiped sweat from his forehead with a grease-stained hand. We're only getting about 60% of what we need. Dr. Smith stood in front of their test setup, a small-scale version of their planned power system. It was a strange mix of human and alien technology. Earth's fusion reactor parts were connected to alien power conduits through adapters they had built from scratch. What if we try something crazy? Dr. Smith picked up a piece of chalk and walked to the blackboard they had set up. The aliens found it amusing that humans still used such simple tools for complex problems. Look at their power grid like a river system. Right now, we're trying to pour our water directly into their mainstream. He drew a quick diagram. But what if we create smaller streams first? Multiple fusion reactors, each feeding into smaller power nodes, then combining into their main system. First engineer, who had been watching quietly, moved closer to the blackboard, like your Earth rivers joining to form a larger one. This could work. But we would need many fusion reactors. How many ships do you have that still have working engines? Dr. Smith asked. 23. The rest are completely drained. Good. We'll start with those. We'll use their remaining power combined with our fusion reactors, like using multiple batteries to start a big engine. The team got back to work with renewed energy. Human welders sparked and hissed as they modified equipment. Alien engineers used their advanced tools to help reshape human technology to fit their systems. The cargo bay became so hot from all the work that they had to open extra cooling vents. One young alien engineer, watching a human weld 2 pieces of metal together, asked, "Why don't you use molecular bonding tools?" The human welder, Mary, laughed. "Because sometimes the old ways are the best ways. This weld might not be pretty, but it'll hold. And if it breaks, anyone can fix it with basic tools." By the end of the week, they were ready for their first full-scale test. They had converted one of the Problem Solvers' backup fusion reactors into their new hybrid power system. If it worked, Earth would send more reactors. If it failed, they would need a new plan. The test chamber was crowded with both human and alien engineers. Dr. Smith stood at the main control panel, which now had both human switches and alien touch panels. "Everyone ready?" he asked. "Once we start, we can't stop until the sequence is complete." First engineer nodded. "All safety systems are active. We are ready." Dr. Smith took a deep breath and began the power-up sequence. The fusion reactor hummed to life. Power readings started to climb. Everyone watched the displays nervously. 20% power, 40%, 60%. Bill called out the readings. At 75%, warning lights started flashing. The alien power conduits were glowing brighter than they should. "The connection is holding," Mary reported from her station. "My welds are good. 80%, 85%, 90%. Suddenly, everything clicked. The power flow stabilized. The warning lights went dark. The hybrid system was working perfectly. 100% power transfer, Bill shouted. The room erupted in cheers, human and alien alike. First engineer turned to Dr. Smith. "Your simple solution worked. We didn't think it was possible to combine our technologies this way." Dr. Smith smiled. "That's the thing about humans. We're good at making different things work together. Now comes the hard part. We need to build enough of these systems to power up all your ships." "How long will that take?" First engineer asked. "With both our teams working together, we can do it in 3 weeks. We'll teach your engineers how to build and maintain the fusion reactors, and they can teach us more about your power systems. Together, we're stronger than either of us alone." As they left the test chamber, Dr. Smith noticed more alien children watching through the windows. This time, they weren't just watching. They were drawing pictures of the human engineers at work. "Look at that," he said to first engineer. "They're learning that sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. It's the one that works." Captain James stood in the problem solver's communication room, looking at the holographic display of the solar system. 20 Earth ships were now gathered around the stranded alien fleet, each carrying fusion reactors and supplies. But they had hit another problem. Even with all our fusion reactors working together, Dr. Smith explained to the combined human-alien command team, "We won't have enough power to move the entire fleet at once. The gravitational trap is too strong." First engineer nodded. "And if we try to move ships one at a time, the last ships will run out of life support before we finish." The room fell silent. They had solved the power problem, but now faced an even bigger challenge. Captain James watched the hologram, focusing on the paths of the planets. Suddenly, he smiled. "What if we don't fight the gravity?" he asked. "What if we use it instead?" He walked to the hologram and pointed at Jupiter. "Look where we are. Jupiter will pass relatively close to our position in 3 weeks. If we time it right, we could use its gravity to help pull the fleet free." The alien commanders looked confused, but Dr. Smith's eyes lit up. "A gravity assist, like how we send probes to the outer solar system. Jupiter's gravity could give us the extra boost we need." First engineer studied the projection. "But such a maneuver would be extremely dangerous with ships this size. One mistake, and we could lose everything." "That's why we'll combine our technologies," Captain James explained. "We'll use your advanced navigation systems with our experience in gravity assists. Humans have been using this trick for over a century." They spent the next hour planning. The alien ships had amazing computers that could calculate precise paths through space. The humans had decades of experience using planets' gravity to move spacecraft. Together, they might just have a chance. "The timing has to be perfect," Dr. Smith said, marking critical points on the hologram. "We'll need to position emergency rescue ships here, and here. If any ship loses power during the maneuver, we'll have minutes to save them." The planning room became a mix of human and alien technology. Star charts drawn on paper hung next to holographic displays. Calculators sat beside quantum computers. The two species worked together, each bringing their own strengths to the problem. "We'll start the power-up sequence 4 hours before the gravity assist," one of the human engineers explained. "Each fusion reactor will power up in sequence, like starting the engines on a huge airplane." An alien navigator added, "Our computers will adjust each ship's position constantly. We can share the calculations between ships to make sure no one drifts off course." As they worked, more alien refugees gathered to watch through the viewing windows. Word had spread about the bold plan. Some looked worried, but many showed signs of hope for the first time since becoming stranded. Captain James noticed an alien child drawing something on a tablet. Looking closer, he saw it was a picture of Jupiter pulling their ships like a giant magnet. He smiled. Even the children understood the basic idea. "There's one more thing," Dr. Smith said, bringing everyone's attention back to the plan. "We need to modify the fusion reactors to handle the strain. They'll be pushed to their limits during the maneuver. Our engineers can help strengthen the containment fields," first engineer offered. "We may not understand your fusion technology fully, but we know how to protect against gravitational stress." They worked through the night, refining the plan. Human engineers taught alien crews how to monitor the fusion reactors. Alien technicians helped upgrade Earth's navigation systems. Every hour brought new challenges, but also new solutions born from their cooperation. As the meeting ended, Captain James looked at the tired but determined faces around him. "We have 3 weeks to prepare. Every ship, every reactor, every calculation has to be perfect. But if there's one thing I've learned in the past month, it's that humans and aliens working together can solve any problem." First engineer made the musical sound that humans had learned was their version of agreement. We came to your solar system by accident, but perhaps it was not accident at all. Your simple solutions and bold ideas are exactly what we needed." Outside the window, Jupiter shone as a bright point of light. In 3 weeks, it would either help save 2 million lives or become a grave marker in space. The clock was ticking. With just 4 days left before the Jupiter Gravity Assist Maneuver, Earth's deep space monitoring stations detected something alarming. Bill rushed into the problem solver's control room with the news. "Major solar flare detected," he announced, pointing to his datapad. "It's one of the biggest we've ever seen, and it's heading straight for us." Dr. Smith and First Engineer looked up from their work on the fusion reactor controls. The timing couldn't have been worse. They were in the middle of final preparations for the Gravity Assist Maneuver. "How long do we have?" Captain James asked, his face serious. 8 hours until it hits us," Bill replied. "The alien ships don't have enough power to raise their radiation shields, and our fusion reactors are all configured for the Jupiter maneuver. We can't power everything at once." First Engineer's skin changed to a darker shade of blue, a sign of deep worry among their species. "Without shields, the radiation will kill many of our people. But if we use emergency power now, we won't have enough for the gravity assist." Dr. Smith walked to the window, looking at the massive fleet spread out before them. 2 million lives at stake, and now this. But then he noticed something that made him smile. "We don't need to power their shields," he said suddenly. "We can protect them another way." He turned to Captain James. "Remember what we learned in the Academy about solar flares?" Captain James' eyes widened. "The shadow zone. If we position the ships correctly." "Exactly." Dr. Smith grabbed a marker and started drawing on the planning board. "Solar flare radiation follows the sun's magnetic field lines. There's always a safe zone, a shadow, behind large objects." First Engineer moved closer to the diagram. "You want to use some ships to shield others." "Better than that," Dr. Smith explained. "We can position the fleet in a formation like geese flying south for winter. Each ship will provide partial protection for the ones behind it. The Earth ship's normal shields can protect the front of the formation." The next hour was a blur of activity. Human navigators worked with alien pilots to calculate the perfect formation. They would arrange all 300 ships in a giant arrow shape, with Earth's 20 ships at the point. "Our ships are smaller," Captain James explained to the alien commanders, "but our radiation shielding is built to handle solar flares. We deal with them all the time. We'll take the brunt of the blast." As they moved the ships into position, Dr. Smith and his team rushed to modify the Earth vessel's shield generators. They couldn't cover the whole alien fleet, but they could create a deflection effect that would help protect everyone. First Engineer watched in amazement as the humans worked. "Your people are using such basic technology, yet the solutions you create are remarkable." "That's because we're used to working with what we have," Mary explained as she rewired a shield generator. "When you can't build something new, you learn to use what you have in clever ways." With just 30 minutes to spare, the fleet completed its formation. The massive arrow shape of ships looked beautiful against the starfield. Captain James stood on the bridge, watching the radiation sensors as the solar flare approached. "Brace for impact," he called out. The flare hit them like a wave of fire. The Earth ship's shields glowed bright blue under the strain. Inside the alien vessels, refugees huddled together, waiting to see if the human plan would work. For 3 tense hours, the formation held. The Earth ship's shields didn't just protect them. They created a cascade effect, each ship's protection helping the ones behind it. When the flare finally passed, there was a collective sigh of relief across the entire fleet. "Damage report," Captain James called out. "Minor radiation leakage on some of the rear ships," Bill reported, "but nothing serious. The formation worked. Everyone's safe." First Engineer turned to Dr. Smith. "Once again, your species has shown us that sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones. You turned our entire fleet into a giant shield by simply understanding how solar flares work. We're not done yet, Dr. Smith reminded everyone. The flares passed, but we've used up precious preparation time. We have less than 3 days to get ready for the Jupiter maneuver. Captain James nodded. Then we'd better get back to work. We've avoided one disaster, but the biggest challenge is still ahead of us. Outside, Jupiter grew visibly larger each hour. Soon, they would attempt something never done before, using a planet's gravity to save an entire civilization. The day of the Jupiter maneuver arrived. Every screen in the problem solver's control room showed the giant planet, now looking enormous against the black of space. The combined fleet of human and alien ships had moved into their starting positions. All fusion reactors report ready, Mary announced from her station. She had spent the last 2 days doing final checks on every power system. Dr. Smith stood at the main control panel, with First Engineer beside him. Captain James watched from the command chair as status reports came in from all ships. The entire fleet was arranged in a long curved line, like a string of pearls in space. Remember, Captain James said over the fleet-wide channel, once we start the sequence, there's no stopping. Every ship must follow its exact course. One mistake could pull other ships off their paths. First Engineer added, all refugee ships report life support systems switched to emergency power. Everything else is ready for the fusion reactor power-up sequence. The plan was both simple and incredibly complex. They would use Jupiter's massive gravity to help pull the ships free, while the fusion reactors provided the extra push needed to break away from the artificial gravity trap. The timing had to be perfect. Starting countdown, Bill announced. Power-up sequence begins in 10 minutes. In the refugee ships, millions of aliens gathered around viewing screens to watch. Many held their children close. They had been stranded for months, and now their fate depended on human technology and knowledge of gravity assists. Dr. Smith checked the final calculations one last time. The first 5 ships will power up their fusion reactors in sequence, 1 minute apart. Each group of 5 ships will follow the same pattern. The control room fell silent as the countdown reached its final minute. Jupiter filled half the view screens now, its great red spot like a giant eye watching them. Sequence start, Bill called out. First fusion reactor powering up. The problem solver shuddered slightly as its reactor came to full power. On the displays, they could see the power readings climbing exactly as planned. Second ship powering up. Third ship. Fourth. One by one, the fusion reactors across the fleet came to life. Each one had to reach full power at exactly the right moment. The alien ship's computers helped coordinate the precise timing, while human engineers monitored the power levels. First group complete, Mary reported. Moving to second group. Halfway through the power-up sequence, warning alarms sounded on one of the ships. A fusion reactor was starting to overheat. Reactor 7 is showing strain, Bill shouted. Dr. Smith moved quickly to the engineering station. Reroute power through the backup systems. Remember the test runs. We planned for this. The human and alien engineers worked together, their hands flying over controls. The reactor's temperature began to drop back to safe levels. Power-up sequence continuing, Mary announced. We're still on schedule. As the last group of reactors came online, the fleet began to move. Slowly at first, then faster as Jupiter's gravity took hold. The massive planet's pull was now helping them instead of fighting them. All ships maintain course, Captain James ordered. We're entering the gravity assist zone. The next 10 minutes were the longest of their lives. Each ship had to follow an exact path past Jupiter, using its gravity like a slingshot. The combined power of the fusion reactors and the gravity assist would either break them free or tear the fleet apart. Warning alarms blared as the gravitational forces increased. The problem solver's hull creaked under the strain. On the alien ships, refugees held onto anything they could as their vessels were pulled by competing forces. Passing the critical point, First Engineer announced, gravitational forces at maximum. Suddenly, everything changed. The artificial gravity trap that had held them for so long began to weaken. Ship after ship broke free, their paths curving away from Jupiter exactly as planned. "It's working," Bill shouted. "The gravity assist is breaking us loose." They watched in amazement as the entire fleet, all 300 ships, swung past Jupiter in a grand arc. The fusion reactors provided just enough extra power to prevent any ships from being pulled into the wrong trajectory. As the last ship cleared the danger zone, cheers erupted throughout the fleet. Dr. Smith and First Engineer exchanged looks of relief and pride. "Your people did it," First Engineer said. "You saved us with nothing but fusion reactors and gravity." Captain James smiled. "We did it together. Human determination and alien technology, working as one." But their celebration was brief. They had escaped the trap, but the alien refugees still needed a new home. As Jupiter shrank behind them, everyone knew that their journey wasn't over. 1 month after the successful Jupiter maneuver, the combined fleet orbited Earth. The blue planet turned slowly below them, clouds swirling across its surface. In the problem solvers' main conference room, human and alien leaders gathered for a historic meeting. Captain James stood at the window, remembering how this all started with a simple distress signal. Dr. Smith sat nearby, looking tired but proud. Their impossible rescue mission had succeeded, but it had changed both species forever. "We have an announcement to make," the alien High Commander said, its skin shimmering with the bright colors of happiness. "After much discussion, we request permission to establish a permanent settlement on Earth's moon." The room fell silent. This wasn't what anyone had expected. "But surely your technology could find you a better home," one of the Earth officials asked. "A whole planet of your own." First Engineer stepped forward. "We have learned something valuable from humans. The most advanced solution is not always the best solution. Your moon is perfect, close enough to learn from humans, but far enough to build our own way of life." The Earth Council didn't take long to agree. Within days, plans were drawn up for a massive lunar settlement. Human engineers would help design it, combining Earth's practical building methods with alien technology. Back on Earth, the effect of the rescue mission was already showing. Dr. Smith's hybrid power system had opened new possibilities. Human and alien engineers were working together to create technology that was both advanced and reliable. "Look at this," Bill said, showing Dr. Smith a new design on his tablet. "The aliens are helping us improve our fusion reactors. They say our simple approach just needed a few adjustments to be almost as efficient as their quantum drives." In the lunar construction site, Mary worked with alien engineers, teaching them about human building techniques while learning about their advanced materials. "Sometimes a simple welding torch works better than a molecular bonder," she told a group of alien apprentices, "especially when you need repairs in a hurry." The alien children adapted quickly to lunar gravity, turning it into a giant playground. They taught human children their games, while learning Earth sports modified for low gravity. Soccer became particularly popular, with matches lasting hours in the gentle lunar pool. 3 months after the rescue, the first lunar city was ready. They named it Unity, and it was unlike anything in human or alien history. Solar panels designed by humans powered alien buildings. Earth-style farms used alien technology to grow food from both worlds. Captain James attended the opening ceremony. As he watched human and alien families moving into their new homes, he spotted a familiar face, the alien child who had drawn the picture of Jupiter helping their ships. "What are you drawing now?" he asked, kneeling beside the young alien. The child showed him a picture of the Earth and Moon, with Unity City glowing between them. Around the drawing were simple words in both human and alien language: "Home for all." Later that evening, at the celebration dinner, Dr. Smith and First Engineer sat together, watching the Earth rise over the lunar horizon. "You know what's funny?" Dr. Smith said. "When you first arrived, everyone thought we were too primitive to help you. Now look at us. We're building things neither of us could have built alone." First Engineer made a happy musical sound. We have spread word to other species about Earth, about how humans took simple things like fusion power and gravity assists and used them to save 2 million lives. Many are interested in learning your way of thinking. Just wait until they try ice cream. Dr. Smith laughed. The aliens had become oddly fond of the frozen treat, claiming its molecular structure was fascinatingly primitive yet perfect. As the celebration continued, news came in from Earth's deep space monitors. 3 more alien ships had entered the solar system, asking permission to study human engineering. It seemed Earth had gained a reputation across the galaxy, not for having the most advanced technology, but for knowing how to use simple solutions to solve impossible problems. Captain James looked out at the stars, knowing that this was just the beginning. Humanity had not only saved an alien fleet, they had proven that sometimes the best way forward was to remember the basics. As Unity City glowed behind him, he smiled, wondering what other impossible problems humans would solve next. The end of one journey had become the beginning of another, and the stars seemed a little closer than before.